how long do you think this game's going to go for, Mike?
Very much now. We do get into a game number 3 between T1 and Boom Esports set to get underway. John, we may have predicted the time that the game's going to last, but I do hope this isn't going to be the last game of this best of 5. So far, it has been very, very one-sided, and I want a bit more excitement, Jonathan. I think people are expecting a much closer matchup.
Yeah, especially if you consider the upper bracket finals. I think that was a very tight series between the two. It just feels like Boom has managed to learn a lot more from that series than T1 did. I think they do make some good adjustments for this game tree. The TA pick for Gabbi, having a much more active hero for Carl on that Kunkka is going to be a great response, and I think this should allow T1 to find some early aggression, but it really depends, because we said almost the same thing in game 1 where T1 had such a great draft with so much stuns. Boom still found a way. I still feel like if Boom made that game 1 draft of theirs work, this is pretty much more bog standard for Boom, and they should be able to get that done too. It's just a question of whether or not Carl can really snowball to enable Gabbi to find that space to farm.
You know, the thing is as well, John, it feels like if FBZ, if he gets off to a good start, if he gets a few kills rolling, it doesn't feel like you're going to be able to stop him this game. And that's one big fear I have for T1. We talked about their 4 strength heroes in their draft. They're not going to be able to put up with that kind of Timbersaw later on if they do end up falling behind. We might actually have a level 1 fight this time around, as both teams are currently just watching each other. Esports, unsure, but they are both looking to try and swipe the top rune. Jackie's going to move in.
And here we go.
Is there along with Whitemon, and they'll get the ignite out, but it seems like that's probably going to be it. A 2-for-2 trade on the bounties once again, so a very even kind of start to this game number 3.
Dire on the other.
While we're around, we'll talk about the mid lane, John. You've got Carl there on the Kunkka this time around, so he takes that away from Yopaj. Yopaj will go back to the Queen of Pain. We've seen this matchup many, many times, and it's not actually too favorable here for the Quap. I feel like the Kunkka does actually do a great job.
You just out-damage the Quap. You don't expend mana for your damage as well, whereas the Quap is going to need to balance between Shadow Strike or the Scream of Pain. Yopaj does opt for the Scream of Pain to clear out the creep wave, and I think that's probably the better build. I think the best success we've seen Quap is more of a Scream of Pain build in comparison to Shadow Strike, so I'm keen to see how Yopaj builds up. He is getting some good harassment, though. Level 1 for Kunkka is not great here.
Yeah, this is a lot of harassment out onto Carl, and to be fair to him, he does have a Fairy Fire, so he probably would have been okay, but Yopaj certainly trying to get the damage up before those levels do come up on Carl. So I suppose while we have a chance, we should have a look at the other lanes as well. And look at top lane, we do see Jackie and Tim's there with Zephyr and Cuckoo, and now they start to get aggressive. Cuckoo copying a fair bit of damage there. I suppose this is not going to be the easiest lane in the world for T1 either.
Yeah, and I like the shift out here for Boom. Having the Pangolier up top instead of the Bane gives you so much wave clear up against the Boris when you do come out, and a lot of aggression. And Control can play fast with the slowest he has on the whirling axis, so you can't actually just run up and force a trade here. It's a bit scary for T1 to look to be aggressive. So while you're seeing Tim's forcing out that TP from Zephyr, he will just go back to his tier 1. That's buying a lot of space for Jackie. Your Troll's not under too much pressure. He is a bit behind CS, but overall I think this sets the tone of this lane quite nicely for Boom.
Yeah. There's that final lane as well. You've got FBZ and Skem against Gabbi and Whitemon. I'd say Gabbi should be relatively safe in this lane, at least until you have the Chakram up on FBZ. Skem, of course, making the rotation down to the off lane instead of being in that safe lane here on the Bane. I think that is a smart decision as well for Boom, because against Whitemon's Ogre, the Bane doesn't have too tough of a time of being able to trade with him, and even for that courier, just saving the life of the courier for good old FBZ, managed to get his items, and Whitemon have to walk his way back.
Yeah, and Carl's also dropping extremely low mid. He's going to go for the TP back home. Shadow Strike's running. He TP's barely in time to get some heals off. You're already seeing a bit of the opposite of what we were saying in that mid matchup. Yopaj is doing a lot better than the Kunkka there, Mike. Carl, 5 CS. Yopaj up at 11, so a creep wave advantage, and he's just constantly going in on the aggressive with the Shadow Strike. Carl does not have the TPX this time. He might tick out here if he's not careful.
Gonna have to eat some tangos here, Carl. No, he's gonna be all right. Level 2 Shadow Strike, but it's not gonna be enough damage yet. Like Boom really have a point to prove in this this best of 5 series here against T1. Of course, Nat mentioned it earlier, Jonathan, but you are deciding who the kings of C are right now, and Boom, one game away from being able to claim that title off T1. at least before Tour 2 comes around.
Dyer's mid tower.
They can manage to pull this off. Still first blood yet to be drawn from either side. Carl again has been getting very low on that Kunkka, and Page, he's going to make the jump in. Seeing that small camp being farmed up, he wants to go for the first blood, and it looks like he's probably got it. Carl can't do anything. Page able to secure first blood, and tips are out against Carl.
Oh man, that is painful, but Yopaj has been constant with the aggression, just forcing the Kunkka to have a bad time. You were talking about this earlier, Mike, but we've seen Kunkkas actually win this lane. Yopaj proving to us that Quap can actually work this lane as well. He's just going against the constraints of the Tidebringer, dodging every single use. Look at Carl, he just comes back in, cops a level 3 Shadow Strike, and already down to around half HP.
The Sips gone to Whitemon. Oh, Scam and Whitemon playing around with each other right now as Whitemon does get the water rune there. He's going to be able to walk away and even take a bounty rune for himself. A mid lane, there is another jump in onto Carl on that Kunkka. He's in big trouble at the moment as the Shadow Strike's still ticking him down, and I don't think he can make it out. He'll try to eat a tango, and that actually might be enough. He is surviving through it. Carl is going to survive on 9 HP, as now the chase is back on for Tim's this time around on the Pango. With the Fire Blast and the Ignite, it should be more than enough to take down Tim's, and it will be.
And he gets some punishment, but that's still a lot of time Carl has to spend back home. And that's a lot of farm that Kunkka's missing out on. We talked about what T1 had to do. We expected T1 to emphasize rotations onto mid. Instead, it's Boom, who are looking to be hyper-aggressive to keep that Kunkka down. Already bringing the 2 supports up here, so they're leaving their side lanes a bit open here, Mike, but you've got pretty independent laners. Troll can just stand back with a range axe form, and Timbersaw is a Timbersaw, so you can just kind of let him solo. I think that's the one strength Boom has. They've got independent cores that will enable your supports to go to other lanes if need be.
A 1-to-1, very slight net worth lead hit Boom. Too much movement across the map yet, but it is beginning as Cuckoo kind of getting grouped up here top lane. They're going to just pincer him in. Tims will sneak up from the backside. Jackie already just harassing away. Cuckoo, though, going to try and TP, but the ensnare on the first hit again from Jackie for the second time today. Cuckoo, well, he's just going to have to go to the graveyard now.
No TP back to lane as well, Mike. So it's the walk of shame for Cuckoo to head back to that farm. And look at the movements, the wards that Boom managed to drop while rotating up. They block the camps. They get a good ward on the triangle. Zephyr's trying to build up for that TA. This is going to slow down Gabbi by a big amount. No stacks to play with, no catch up farm later on.
But now being chased down the... Are we seeing the same story for a third time?
Not quite. I don't think it's completely unplayable yet for T1. But now you're going to have to give some catch-up farm towards a Kunkka. So he's eating in some of those large camps. He might take a stack or 2 if they do get built up. And Boom are in a position to just harass out mid. They've got the siege creep. They don't have the fastest push potential here, but they've got the bodies to commit. And they already force out the early fortify out. So they're just looking to take an early objective. Everyone's actually not coming in to stop this. Like, the siege creep's going to last long. Yopaj has salves to tank up the tower. So they're going to get the siege creep up for another wave.
They are. And that should be the T1 tower to drop. Nothing to protect it right now from T1. Cuckoo's going to try and bring in the dominated creep to try and ward them off a little bit. Like, Boom. It's going to stick around too long, as you do have Cuckoo now fully rotated over on that Beastmaster, even without the level 6 mark. Something that I feel T1 don't necessarily want to be doing right now, as Skem's going to even find out Gabbi in the jungle. Surely he can't get a pick off by himself, as Gabbi does have refraction. Just barely having enough mana for that. I think he only had 1 mana left over after he used it, so... Time's here for Gabbi's. He's going to have to make his way back towards the fountain. Reset for himself now, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of pressure on Cuckoo this game to again be able to apply that pressure and buy the space for Carl and Gabbi, because both of them haven't had the best laning stage.
They've had a really slow start. I think you are at least happy with the fact that Gabbi hasn't really died, but you're a TA. You need that flash farm. The jungle is still blocked. There are still no stacks. The camps do spawn at the least, but the catch-up farm, the burst farm, the TA can get in the jungle, it's not built up. So So I think all this movement is costing T1 because they're forced to respond, they're forced to check camps, they're trying to stack, it's not building up. Boom's just been on point with what they have to do in this game, in this map to kind of prevent T1 from building up. And while all that movement comes out, Jackie has free
Pressure gone. Gabbi and Carl, both known for being a little bit greedy, they're going to need that space.
Yeah, I think at the least here for T1, you're going to need to get Zephyrus leveled up. You want the kisses. You want to play with Warrior kisses, find the kills, get a push. And that's how T1 gets some early aggression going their way. They already have lost their bot tier 1. The push coming out from Timbersaw's not the fastest, but he has a massive creep wave and he's just tanking up. Vanguard already up for FBZ, sub 10 minutes. So he's a hard one to kill off, even with the physical output of, say, a TA. And this is the point where Timbersaw just feels unkillable. He's just going to play between tier 2, tier 3, keep tier 2 pressured, force a response out. Good fortify as well to protect that creep wave. It actually forces out the boat from Carl, just to clear out those creeps.
He's got to do something, and John, this is not something you want as T1. Like, FBZ, he has not been forced to rotate top to defend the top T1 yet. He might have to go now, as Zephyr has begun and Cuckoo is there, and well, there's the TP in from FBZ. We just sit here and respond to that now, and I think Carl gave the call over, like, listen, I don't want to throw boat onto a creep wave like that again. Please force this guy to go top. I can't deal with the Timber right now.
And that's a good amount of farm coming up for Carl, at the least. You know, he's at 2.6 now, so a good injection from the 1.9 we saw from last. But look at the position of Boom. They're in that jungle. They've got a good forward ward. Sentries are dropped. Whitemon does have the obs, but could be punished for moving up here.
Watching him very carefully. Whitemon, he does have help, though. Yeah, a decent fight here for T1 if they choose to take it as Tim's. Gonna be slowed up, but does swash away. Still, the Ignite slow is quite high. Fire Blast will be there now. Carl, he misses the Torrent.
Radiant's top tower.
Well, there's no excuse for that one, John. I don't know how you missed that. Maybe the Fire Blast was just a bit too early and Carl was trying to predict the movement of Tim's.
Radiant's top
yeah, I think it looked like a prediction, or maybe it's just one of those things where the vertical hitbox, the perspective casting onto the low ground on the ramp is pretty hard. It does happen sometimes.
Jackie.
They are making a play on Jackie here.
Does have Battle Trance, but this will be a massive kill for T1 if they can get it, and they'll pop the Mortimer's Kisses. Battle Trance has been expended, and now the rest of the team are making their way over, but Jackie is already so low, and they just want the one damn kill. Jackie, he will go down to the Scatter Blast, but now the Sonic Wave out, Yapage, he's gonna get Zephyr, and it looks like they've got Whitemon. So it's still a decent trade, as long as Carl gets himself out of there. I think T1 will probably be satisfied with that.
You'll take it. You kill off the pause one. You're getting some gold in onto Carl. You have to consider what happens across the map, though. They've left FBZ once again. He pushes in the top tier 1, and he's just applying pressure. The Beastmaster's actually not pushing, like you called it out earlier. But this Timbersaw can just clear out those dominated creeps, clear out the boars, and Cuckoo's actually just forced to be the one defensive. It's not the Timbersaw being defensive. It's the Beastmaster having to hold his towers alive here.
It is. T1 is kind of riding out the storm as it is, but I don't think the storm's even really started yet. Boom Esports, they've been grouping up a little bit, but not crazy amounts yet. How's Gabbi farming? Too badly, just ahead of Jackie right now, so it's good news for T1. Once you have that Desolator up, Gabbi can start to get involved, and well, especially once you have the Blink BKB up, then you're certainly getting involved. Skem. Be spotted here by Whitemon, but they'd love to go onto Yapage. Problem is, he's going to be perfectly fine with the support there of the Bane. So instead, they'll turn back in onto Whitemon, see if they can burst him down. Yapage, a very aggressive blink in. Cookie's way off the mark, but they roar him up. They just want the clock dead, and it looks like this might be the first death for Yapage, and they get him. Gabbi will take the kill, and that's what you wanted to see there from T1.
Yeah, they get the kill. They commit a lot of resources for that, but it's worthwhile. Yapage's first death in the series comes out here in Game 3. So he doesn't have a perfect series. That would have probably been a record in a best of 5, never dying. So Yapage ruins himself. T1 does manage to get that work done, and it will pay off. But, boom. The smoke up. You have a roll and grip ready on Tim's and Skem, so they could actually look to make a play here onto Gabbi if he's not careful.
Yeah, Fiend's grip is up, Skem. Trying to ignore Zephyr, but I believe Zephyr did spot him out there. Still ward being dropped to give the vision. They'll have to go to the Snapfire though as Skem. Still going to have a look around for Gabbi, but in the end will not be able to find as Yapage not playing around, does throw out the Sonic Wave. At least for Zephyr, though, you allow Gabbi to get out, and that's still going to be a decent feeling here for T1.
Find a support kill, you're giving Yopaj something for his death while go, and you're clumping up as 4 now on the side of Boom. You're playing top, you're giving Jackie space to farm. His Maelstrom's almost done, so he can start to keep up with Gabbi's pace as he is still farming naturally a bit faster here. And you might be at the point where you could think about Roshan once you have, say, the Maelstrom. So they could kind of set up for that. I think the state of the map is still pretty bad for T1. They haven't been able to take a tier 1 tower at all, and they've got a Beastmaster. Like that push you expect with that hero is just not coming out. FPZ's done a good job of protecting every single tier 1 by rotating to where Kuhu's at. So I think we need to see T1 somehow take a fight and then take an objective, open up the map more, start being aggressive with your 4 heroes, because they are starting to get pretty strong. BKB is still way off here for Carl. That might be holding them back. Boom, though, will go for a smoke play.
They will. Man, smoke up as FBZ on the front line. Careful not to pop that smoke underneath that Hawk. Still, Zephyr is going to break the smoke of FBZ, and immediately T1 seem to want a bar of it. But they have smoked up on their own end of things, so T1 might be able to try and initiate in a way that they want to. Find Skem. Carl, he's going to land the X. Won't throw out the torrent though, instead Nightmare will be there, though Skem does get stunned up, but again it's a very weird team fight from T1 thus far, as they haven't really fully committed. And Boom Esports, they will fully commit if they want to. And that they do, they start to move in. Not really finding the target yet as FBZ, he's going to be targeted here by T1. A lot of HP being removed right now, but Nightmare is there from Skem to try and save his FBZ. He is still alive. Tim's meanwhile will come in now with the Rolling Thunder. It's going to be a nice stun out as Jackie does move in with that battle trance onto Cuckoo. They've got rid of Whitemon, and now the Sonic Wave out to Poi. He lands on absolutely everybody as they even find Gabbi. And FBZ, he eventually goes down, but it took so long to get that done. And in the time that it did, Tim's, he got a great Rolling Thunder out, and it just managed to turn everything around for Boom.
And we talked about this timing, Mike. Jackie has Maelstrom after that fight straight into the Roche. No roar, no vote, no kisses for T1 to contest with. So it's going to be a very straightforward Roshan for Boom. And you just see how much it takes from T1 to force the fight out. They have to throw everything they have. And that's a Timbersaw without any sort of magical defense. You know, there's no Hood of Defiance out. There's nothing to protect from magical damage. They have to use all of it, and it still takes a while to burst him down. Boom will temper themselves back. They're not going to force the Roche issue too hard. Respawns are short, but that does give Boom a nice lead. 4K up now. They can just get back to building up in Jackie. They've slowed down Gabbi once more. He's lagged behind now, behind even FBZ. You need more time for that TA to start building up here, Mike. Desolator's still coming out. Blink's gonna be there. You really need a BKB, and even with a BKB, Boom still has the grip. So it's still a bit risky for Gabbi to come up front if they can't find the Bane. And Skem's gonna have to really put in the work to find that proper position in these fights to go against that spell immunity.
Carl gets out into the boat, but the Yule Scepter gonna keep Japoi alive, so instead they'll have to try and just slow down FBZ from rushing forward, and they found Zephyr. And that Snapfire, and there you go, there's a Snapfire gone. Boom Esports not losing anybody here as
dominate. No breaking down the Radiant structures like this. Mega kill! Double kill! Radiant's mid tower.
It seems like a very, very similar story, Jonathan,
what's happening
from the last 2 games as Boom are not slowing down anytime soon.
No, they're just on the aggressive, and this time around, this should enable them to take that Roche. Find 2 nice kills. For T1, this is not the worst situation to be in. They've got Kisses, they've got Roar, they've got Boat on the respawn. Well, a bit delayed, but this is a fast Roshan. I think if T1 wants to contest, they have to run up now, get the Kisses off, and they're going to be rushing up with that smoke.
Try. Roshan's already pretty much gone, though. They're not going to be able to make it in time. The Roshan does bash Jackie once, but in the end, they won't be able to move their way in. On backs against the wall once again. Trying to buy more time for Gabbi to secure that farm up on the TA, but Boom, they just don't seem like they want to slow down yet. Easy again, moving in. T1. Smoke up here for Yopaj and Skem to boot, so they're going to wrap around and maybe even find out. Gabbi, though, a nice scan from T1 does actually scout out this smoke. Perhaps not going to really work out. Instead, though, they can always head mid, where T1 are grouped up by that Tier 2 tower. Skem, his smoke, knows exactly where they are. Keep in mind, they have that Helm of the Overlord now. Might feel a bit more confident here on the side of T1 to try and fight back. They do have a smoke on Whitemon, but they aren't really choosing to pop it yet. Not confident that they aren't being watched at the moment. As Tims move in and Fire Blast will be there. Tims, though, going to swashbuckle right away. The Ignite is ticking him down. Skem is just going to nightmare him up, and he might actually live through it as Tims goes for the TP out, and he's not going to make it. He'll die in the fountain. Meanwhile, FBC being stunned up, but he's a bit too tanky right now. They're not going to be able to deal with him. So they get something for their trouble. They got Tims in the Pango. I mean, it's better than nothing right now for T1.
It's something. Not the biggest kill, but you'll take what you can get. You're also buying some space out for Gabbi to just play up top. So your TA is getting some good farm. Number 2 network has managed to catch up quite nicely, but Jack Boys isn't too far behind. So you're not playing with an item advantage on that flash farmer, and I think that is a cause of concern. Boom can just start grouping around bot now. I mean, they've got this really tanky Timbersaw to tank through the tower, and Jackie's attack speed is pretty up there. Damage is pretty good with the Maelstrom. They will go for the defense here on T1 though.
I have to try. Oh, Torrent is out on to Jackie, but do they have that burst damage to really get rid of him? He does have the Aegis anyway, so he's going to wait out the first life. Nice start for T1. See if they can follow up as FBZ will move in, and now Jackie gets roared up. But where's your follow-up? Gabbi's going to try and rush in with the Scanner Blast, the meld, and the cookie. They've got Jackie. He did not press that ulti button, and Boom Esports need to rush the hell away as Skem now will be chased down. They'll have plenty of vision with that Fade Grenade. Tim's unable to stick around to help. T1 able to successfully find a double kill and protect that bottom Tier 2 tower, and this could be the turning point for the Radiant.
That's a big kill. Pulling down that Troll Warlord with the Aegis, opening up this mid push that can go really fast with the Beastmaster and the TA Deso. Boom just kind of messed up there. No ult usage on Jackie meant there was no opportunity to fight back, giving them that 6.5 second to respond. And that puts T1 back on the map. Not completely, they're still on a deficit, but not a big one. Team's got to be a bit careful as there are moments where you start to lose power.
Step lively now. Your admiral is on board.
The Dire might want to mine the top tower. The Dire went and fortified their structures.
Step lively now. Your admiral is on board.
Killing spree!
Your death is a secret I no longer have.
Dire's top tower's getting beat down.
looks like they're gonna have to leave him be. At least for now, they turn back in onto Whitemon instead. And it's gonna be a 2-for-1 trade in the favor of Boom. They only find the position for Pangolier. Not a great feeling for the BKB reveal of T1.
Not best use from that for Gabbi. Much more impactful coming out from Jackie. Do love what Cuckoo's doing here. He is microwaving the Granite creep, so there's no mid lane to push. The Boom can't transition to an objective, and that's holding them back. They will go on the hunt, though.
Gabbi was there. Yapage may have gone a bit too far, but can delay with the Yule Scepter and eventually just blink and TP his way out. Gabbi was still searching around, but is unable to find him. Boom. Off as well. Of course, that next big objective for either side is going to be that Roshan pit. It's about time you start going around that Roshan pit and just holding the area. You already see Boom doing exactly that. T1, they are still a little bit split up, but the TPs are starting to come in slowly for that mid lane. I think especially for Boom, with the way Gabbi's farmed up on this TA, you certainly don't want to allow T1 to be able to secure that Aegis if you can avoid it. Very detrimental here for Boom Esports if they do.
Still 2 minutes until that next Roche, so plenty of time for both sides to kind of set up, get some vision out. T1 still clumping around as a team, trying to get control of their bot jungle, but they are at least cutting off the split push coming out from FBZ. He's been forced to clump up. He might fight around this rune though.
Tim's gonna get X'd up into the torrent and the boat with the Mortimer's Kisses. They just throw everything with the kitchen sink at Tim's to make sure he does die. And now they really want Skem on that Bane. They'll rush for him. The Nightmare gonna buy a bit of time to Skem. He might be able to walk away, but no, he will eventually burn out. Instead, Whitemon though does drop as FBZ tries to find another target for his team to jump, and the buyback will be there.
Challenge.
Good use of the wards they've got here on T1. T1, despite taking that loss, dragged the network lead back their way. It's only a 1k advantage for Boom now, so it's been growing smaller and smaller. It's all off the back of Gabbi finding that buildup. He's going towards the Daedalus next. His right-click damage is going to skyrocket. FBZ does have the Heaven's Halberd. She still has to be cautious up front, but so far, I think the lack of instant burn for refraction is costing Boom here. They just have not been able to pin down Gabbi with the long-duration BKBs. As the fights go on, though, once that's down to 6 seconds, that shouldn't be as big of an issue for Boom.
Sean up now, FBZ able to scout it out immediately as you do have T1 in their triangle. They are in position to fight this next Roshan. The Beastmaster, you've got so many ways of scouting out the pit and just having vision over it all the time. Boom will just hold the area around to boot. Gonna be a line drawn out. Want to go for the smoke and the big wraparound. Try to get into that Radiant Triangle and just surprise T1. Hawk's not going to be able to see through this smoke, so it could be quite detrimental for T1. They do get caught with their pants down, but they smoke up themselves now, and they're going to do a very similar tactic. Boom. They'll be in the Radiant Triangle. T1, they run the opposite way, and now FBZ is almost just trying to bait them in with this Timber. They are not going to take the bait, however. They're just trying to retake that Radiant Triangle, but now they're going to run right into each other. Whitemon, he might be targeted first as he does back off. Tim's pump faking the Rolling Thunder, but it hasn't really committed it yet. FBZ still sticking around in a rather aggressive position, but nobody's going to make the jump in. Nobody confident enough to try and burst down the Timber, and neither side will really commit to an engagement. I think you might just want to start Roshan now.
Let's
We're in. Kisses are available along with a broken roar, so this could be a bit messy for Boom if they don't find a pick off first.
Wymon's still being very annoying from that high ground. The Yopaj now going to try and dump in and deal with this Ogre. Meanwhile, Gabbi looking for a way into this team fight himself. Wymon's dropping very low though. The Sonic Wave will get rid of him as now. Tibbs with the Rolling Thunder again. He's going to land on Cuckoo and now the Fiend Grip. It's caught out Gabbi. Stem with the tip immediately knowing there was no way to cancel the Fiend Grip off. And Carl's forced the BKB and just run back towards the base. As Boom Esports, they will stick around the tier 2. In fact, they want to dive tier 3 towers. But can they really dive Carl? I don't think so. He does have that Axe up. He does have the Torrent Storm. They will go back for the mid tier 2 instead. And probably the Roshan after that.
Radiant's mid towers.
That's just great. I think Yopaj managed to use that Arcane Rune really well on his Queen of Pain, just constantly blinking forward, knowing that if you take out the Ogre, you take out the Beastmaster with Tim's, there's no stopping the grip. They already commit the early Torrent to cut off that gank, and now Roshan's completely open for the side of Boom. T1 still have the kisses, still have the roar. The respawns weren't that long, but they're not in position to contest. They did have vision over the Roche though, so they know it's happening, but they have to surrender it.
Roche is tough, but the Dire's toughest.
The shards to go the way of Jackie. He does keep the shards, though no. It looks like he wants to give it over the Yopaj. Sonic Boom just very, very handy to have with that blink up. He won. Axe against the wall once again. They've been in this position multiple times this series. Definitely not too far behind. Just a 7k net worth advantage for Boom. Boom is starting to knock onto that tier 2 top tower. Perhaps even high ground after that.
Radiant's top tower's hurting.
T1 should be prepared to try and fight, especially with that Torrent Storm up on Carl. Things haven't been too smooth as of late. FBZ will chain in, will Fire Blast him up and lock him down with the Mortimer's Kisses and the Roar, but Yopaj, he'll jump in and try to stop all this from happening. So FBZ has gone. And maybe now you can force the defense really, as Boom Esports cannot fight without him. Tim's just going to roll away. T1 might feel the need to keep pushing out. Tim will turn around again. Yopaj with a Sonic Wave out onto 4 heroes. But can they really fight? Wymon's gone and now the Fiend Grip again. It's called Carl and there's no cancelling. What a Rolling Thunder out from Tim's. And that's something you just don't really expect to happen, John. The good old U-turn there from Alpango. It ends up paying off.
That's going to force a couple of buybacks here for the defense. They still have Gabbi. He still has damage. No grip to pin him down, so he knows he can actually get a good defense off. And that's going to hold back Boom. But again, forcing one buyback out isn't too bad. Age is still up for Jackie. Still fairly well protected, but they can't commit. So I think overall, T1's still kind of happy with how that goes. They don't lose their high ground, even though they lose their Kunkka. Boom can't transition to a push because they lack 2 heroes. They're buying time here in T1. They're still getting some good farm out for Gabbi. He really needs his full items up. He is going for the MKB instead of wanting to work through some of that evasion, get some right-click speed up to just try to burst down Jackie in the window he has with his BKB. We'll see if that will make the impact. I think what we really need to see is Carl to be protected. He cannot afford to die. They need the Torrent Storm. They need that boat with a Rumba to stall out these fights and force Boom into a much longer engagement up against their TA. But Boom's target prioritization has been perfect. Like, they instantly just jump Carl if they see the opportunity, pin the Kunkka down, and even though it costs them lives, it gives Boom a massive opening there.
Scary times, John. Yopaj now with a refresher orb up in that quap. That's a little scary. Double Sonic Wave, double Shivers, it's just all there. Gabbi, keep up here on this TA. Jackie is working towards that Satanic now, so just wants that extra survivability. Head up top tier 1, top tier 3 again. Carl gonna try and delay this the best he can, and they've got great ways of doing it. Though looks like he's gonna move his way up. He's got that secondary life with the Aegis. Time FBZ may not try to rush into the tier 3. They were prepared last time around, though Mortimer's Kisses have been expended, and Jackie will lose that first life again. It's a good start here for T1. FBZ though pretending to chain in as he does end up not really going in, but Yopaj has with the blink out. He does get the roar out. The Nightmare's going to save the boat flies in. Yopaj is gone. No buyback available for the Quap, and T1 can really fight this one out now as they're going to try Bakal. He's been focused down. Jackie trying to chase him out, but there's so much control on the troll that he cannot really just fight, and he is going to drop. A very rare mistake from our Queen of Pain. But Yopaj does go too far, and it does cost the side of Boom quite heavily.
It's a big win for T1. They can look for a bit of pressure on their own now, pushing in some of those tier 2s. No Roshan to play for. So not the biggest loss for Boom, but they definitely overstayed their welcome. I think that usage on the first life of Jackie was really not ideal. Like, he's just melting to the kisses. There's a lot of magic damage, a lot of control. T1 has from a mile away the Kunkka and Snap. And you have to respect that. Boom, you're gonna have to find a way to just cut their losses here. Tier 2s are again open, but the creep wave's still a bit behind. Respawns aren't too long for Boom, so I don't expect a high ground to come out here for T1. They're just gonna have to farm what they can, keep building up. Gabbi's really hitting hard with that Daedalus up. He shifted once more. He is going for the Swift one, so we're hitting that point where the TA's gonna be pretty damn strong with the right clicks, and Boom's gonna have to just be on point with the disarms. Lots of pressure on FBZ to get that Heaven's Halberd on Gabbi every time.
Tier 2 mid gonna drop. T1 really starting to fight back now as they head towards that top Tier 2 tower. Be another drop.
Dire's lost the top tower.
One's looking very confident now as one of those things you can't really afford for the Quap to just like that at the start of the team fight. Senior Pashi does queue up the Aeon Disc now just to ensure that he has that kind of second chance even without the Aegis. Meanwhile, T1 a big smoke up right into a double damage rune. That could be a very good start to this fight, as now Gabbi certainly wants to try and force the fight. FBZ is going to be the one to break the smoke, but they saw Yopaj. He'll blink away. Meanwhile, Skem's going to be fine. Jackie, though, is going to get roared up through the BKB, and Whitemon jumps in. They really want that Bane, and they've got Skem locked down. Meanwhile, Yopaj has jumped in. Cuckoo, he gets taken out right off the bat, and now Skem can just buy back into the team fight as Tims. He's going to drop to boot. Meanwhile, Zephyr, though, has also been chased down and locked down here on the Snapfire, so he should be another casualty of war. And he will be. At 2 for 2 so far. You do get that buyback committed from Skem, and he might be going right back to the graveyard as he dies back immediately to Gabbi. Not great news for Boom. T1 now get the better end of that trade.
And that was a very odd mistake from Skem. He just walks forward looking for a D-ward, does not respect the output or the presence of T1. It's going to be pinned down a lot longer than he'd like to. He's still Boom finding some decent trades. They find a 4 in the support, losing only their 2 supports and a buyback. So I think it's very even in terms of the exchange overall. I think the unfortunate thing for T1 was, with Gabbi blinking in, he got immediately disarmed. Like, FBZ just immediately got the Heaven's Halberd off. That bought enough time for Boom to reposition, get an angle in the fight, and still come out with a trade. Whereas if they didn't get the disarm, with the double damage, Gabbi could have just melted one of the supports straight up and just turned that into a very unfavorable fight for Boom. So quick fingers on FBZ to give that opportunity out to Boom. They hold on to a very small lead. 4K at 38 minutes in isn't that big anymore. It's not any substantial item coming out on any of your cores. I think that's the worry now. You've got a TA who's just very big. Swift Blink's not too far off. You're going to have the protection of Lincolns down the line here as well, Mike, with Gabbi kind of saving up for that next. And with the Lincolns, that makes it doubly hard for Skem to actually get the grip off, especially if the BKB's right. I think this game's going to get harder and harder for Boom towards the late game. They do have the Scotty up and running on Jackie, going straight into the Abyssal next, so the bashes are going to be the key thing to work against that BKB. But that's still a ways off. I think T1 with his second wind are actually in a really good position. If this Roche is a quick respawn and they manage to win this fight, T1 could go to the high ground.
Al does reveal where he is right now, and so does Cuckoo. Boom certainly not looking to go for a fight at the moment, it seems, as these past few fights they may not feel very confident, but maybe now with the Aeon Disc on Yopaj in that secondary life and that very low cooldown on that first level, they Might find him immediately. Whitemon, he's in with the Ignite. Can they lock him down? Aeon Disc already procs, so he's forced to blink away. In the meantime, they do come in from the backside. Boom Esports is still trying to find a way to force this fight. The Torrent is going to land on Carl, and it looks like T1 are happy to just kite out.
Triple kill!
Temple
Surprisingly good! I haven't seen one of those in forever! Dire's mid-tower is having technical difficulties. Them Dire buildings are tough as nails. Dire's mid-tower needs a little help. Hope the Dire weren't part of it.